Seth Rollins gives Sami Zayn a deal he can't refuse, or can he? And a women's NXT takeover continues, so just keep watching. Let's just keep it real, you wouldn't mess up like Sami Zayn did here tonight, right? Well, we'll get to that in a moment, and we'll start with just keep eating chop blocks because Julia unsuccessfully distracts Rhea Ripley, so she chop blocks her instead to stop a riptide and hand Rhea a DQ win. So Rhea is the ones, and she showed her strength against a much smaller opponent in Roxanne Perez tonight by catching her in a suicide dive and throwing her against the barricade, and then catching her in a crossbody and turning that into a vertical suplex. But after a razor's edge, she nearly took a pop of rocks from Julia's distraction, only to then take care of Julia and go for a riptide before that chop block stopped her in her tracks. But she does get a DQ win for this, and Julia picks up a 1-week suspension, so this was Rhea's first win since January, but she is 3-1-1 in one-on-one matches. So Roxanne is the twos, and her chop block near the beginning of the match slowed Rhea down for most of the rest of it, and she also slammed Rhea's leg up against the post 2 times, and she showed off her athleticism with a springboard moonsault and a cartwheel knee drop. But while she clearly showed she belongs here, the success that she wants eludes her so far, so she's 1-2 in one-on-one matches. But then after the DQ, Roxanne joined Julia in a beatdown until Io came out to return the favor from last week. However, Io was quickly overwhelmed as well until Rhea came back into the ring to make those two scatter away. However, that means we have to give Roxanne a fine as well, but she did show her smarts and savvy at a very young age. But it looks like Rhea's power was about to win the day until Julia prevented us from finding out, so this has to get a not okay. Next, we just keep Sierra-ing the return as Penta gets right back at McDonough by pushing him off the top rope, so McDonough gets sent through the War Machine, and the War Raiders are the ones. And this one was almost more about what they missed than what they landed, as Ivar wrecked himself with a missed crossbody against the side of the ring, and then later missed a doomsault, but they made up for it by throwing their opponents at each other in a battering ram, and then Ivar Chuck Balor into a taunting New Day at the announce table, so they did get a little bit of help in this win, and they're 4-2 in traditional tags. But that makes the Judgment Day the twos, and this was McDonough's first match since January, and the first match for this duo since December. And while Finn Balor was happy to see McDonough back, he was certainly miffed that he keeps not being told of his return or of Liv's idea to have this match. But it was McDonough who looked to be in top form with a pair of moonsaults, first a springboard variety to the floor, and follow that one up. That was broken up by Eric to stop a near fall. So they go to 0-1 in traditional tags, but Penta has to get a fine here for his interference, and he also has to get a 1-week suspension for later jump kicking Chad Gable backstage when Gable said his favorite part of WrestleMania was seeing Rey Fenix lose to El Grande Americano. And Americano is apparently still fiesta-ing in Mexico, so Aldis made a match next week for Penta versus McDonough. And we also have to point out that Liv, Raquel, and Dom interrupted a meeting between Aldis and Styles, so Liv confirmed with Aldis that she got her leave approved to film a movie. Well, that was awfully convenient for you, Liv, that you don't tell them about this until after you got your tag title rematch, eh? But then Dom's leave got rejected because it looks like Aldis and Styles are on the same page for an IC title match versus Dom. Though that, of course, is not yet confirmed. However, this has to get a double not okay for Liv's decision here. But as for the match, the New Day didn't deserve to get attacked at ringside, and you hate to see a return match be spoiled by interference, so this is also not okay. Third, we just keep SV beating them up as Stephanie lands a corner dragon screw and turns that into an SVB to defeat Ivy Now. So Stephanie is the ones, and she matched Ivy in technical wrestling early on that Ivy tried to display from what she learned from Chad Gable. But then Stephanie took control with a pair of devil's kisses and then a superplex, and she simply had too much firepower, so the NXT champ gets a win back after last week's DQ loss, so she's 1-1 in one-on-one matches on the main roster, and this was impressively her 4th match in 10 days, starting with her fatal 4-way victory at Stand and Deliver. And that makes Ivy the 2s, and she got some help from Gable after he put her foot on the rope following a Meteora, so Gable will get a fine. And then Ivy took advantage when Stephanie stared down Gable for some reason, landing a German suplex on the floor and then a second in the ring, but she simply couldn't keep up with her, so she drops to 0-4 in one-on-one matches. Well, Ivy has been close a lot of times, so Gable just needs to coach her up a little bit better, per usual, since he did such a terrible job with Alpha Academy. Nonetheless, a pair of devil's kisses is hard to ignore, and this also got "This is awesome" chance, so this is okay. And in our main event, we just keep being threatened by spears as Braun Breaker spears Sami Zayn 4 times to send a message loud and clear, forcing the ref to stop the match. So Breaker is the one, and he was a man on a mission to destroy Zayn tonight. He caught Zayn in midair into a spinebuster early on, and then had a jumping clothesline over the announce table, then later a Breakensteiner, and then after being stopped on his first spear attempt, he intercepted a haluva kick right into a spear, and the rib busting was on as he ran the ropes for 2 super spears and then a running spear outside the ring. So while the match was still going on, the ref called for medical attention, but it was not until after that last spear and tossing Zayn back into the ring that the ref called for the bell. So Breaker gets this ref stoppage win to go to 5-0 in one-on-one matches. So Sami Zayn is the 2s, and even after being taught a lesson by Kevin Owens, he remains the most self-righteous wrestler in WWE by calling Rollins' vision for the future a load of crap. And he also called Rollins hypocritical for teaming up with Heyman. That forced Rollins to tell Zayn he's either with him or he's a target. So Rollins gave Zayn an easy out with both a trade to SmackDown, and yes, we need more trades, and also a guaranteed title shot versus the winner of Cena versus Orton. So after pondering it over all night, Zayn just couldn't take it, even though he admitted he wants a WWE or World Heavyweight Championship more than anything, and he called Rollins' offer a threat, so instead, he got his ribs beaten in. And we have seen Zayn lose to Breaker several times before, but Zayn was simply not 100% here yet, and so he turned into dog food in this one. So despite a valiant effort with a sunset flip powerbomb, a tornado DDT, and an exploder suplex, he drops to 1-4 in one-on-one matches. Well, Rollins gave Zayn so many chances here tonight, and even during the match, Rollins told him that he could still take the deal. And after that final refusal, it was simply over for Zayn, and Rollins had an exclamation mark in the middle of the ring with a stomp as WWE officials tried to help him to no avail, so Rollins does have to get a fine. But I have to say this new trio looks pretty unstoppable right now, as Zayn is just the first victim of many to come. So this gets an okay for the match, and an okay for the opening segment and Zayn's other segments. And with that, let's go beyond the mat for Raw, as we had another 4-match card where the last match only happened because Zayn said no to Rollins, so we have to blame Adam Pearce, despite his absence, for handing that bad card to Aldis. Nonetheless, it was Logan Paul who challenged Jey Uso for the title, and despite saying that the title is not taken, instead it is earned, it appears that Jey is actually handing Paul a title shot after just 1 win, so that gets a no yeet. And Jey also couldn't handle Paul's slight that he's done more in 4 years than Jey's done in 15, so Jey super kicked him. That will cost him a fine, and also a not okay. Becky Lynch came out and immediately confessed to being the one to have attacked Bayley before WrestleMania, saying she's not the bad guy because Bayley attacked her nonstop since 2019. And I went back, of course, and looked at this, and if I'm honest, they had some interactions, but it was not really that bad. They only had 2 one-on-one matches during that entire time in December of 22 and February of 23, with both winning 1 match. She also said she tried to have Lyra get rid of Bayley, but to no avail, so Lyra interrupted, saying that everyone warned her about Becky. And she challenged her right there, but Becky refused. Instead, they will have an IC title match at Backlash. So Lyra dropkicked Becky through the ropes and then beat on her until Becky was able to squirm away and then run away, only to blindside Lyra at the top of the ramp. So we will have to give Lyra a fine here for instigating. So while Becky's saying that she's back in business, I'm not exactly sure. What she said here made a lot of sense, but this is simply a match we need to see, so I'll give it an okay. We got a Rusev vignette saying that he had it all but lost himself, and that in his time away he fixed himself, saying that he's now free to crush people because he wants to. And he's also now out to hunt those who waste their talents, so in their suffering he will fix them like he fixed himself. Well, I guess that's awfully nice of him, so he'll have a match next week against Otis, and that is okay. And lastly, Pat McAfee got up on the announce table to address the crowd after last week's attack, and he dropped a couple F-bombs, but at least said that he is loyal and that Cole has been with him since day 1, so he had to protect him last week. He then also told Aldis that he wants Gunther to be unsuspended so that he can fight him, which Aldis instead proposed a match against Gunther at Backlash, and McAfee immediately agreed to it. Well, that can't be a good idea for McAfee, as Gunther should obviously destroy him in about 30 seconds, except he'll probably want to take his good, sweet time with him, taking care of that Yinzer from the East Hills. And I wonder what hills that idiot SportsZu is from, except I think he's probably not good enough to have hills at all, despite being near the Appalachian Mountains. And southwestern PA is so pathetic anymore that the one thing that they claim they're good at, football, they can't even get a single player drafted into the NFL anymore. But anyways, this is a terrible idea by all involved, so it of course gets a double not okay. Could we be on the road to lashing back to nothing yet again? Because we got Cena versus Orton confirmed on SmackDown, and if you missed all my grades from that show, be sure to go right on over here and check that out. Because if you don't, just like how Sami Zayn's ribs are feeling right about now, this Raw was simply not okay.